very good morning, everyone. I'm Nitya Lulla, and I have secured an All India rank of 58 in the NEET exam conducted in the year of 2020. So today I was invited by Amazon Academy to share a few insights on how my journey was. So one thing that I want to tell you all before I start is that everything that I tell you today is going to be about how my journey was and the things that I learned and the strategies that worked for me. But NEET specifically is something that is very personal to everyone. I have noticed this when I saw my friends prepare, when I've spoken to my juniors or my seniors. Everybody has a different journey. So it's good to talk to people who have done the exam so that you get good insights, but do not blindly follow anything. Make sure that you pick up points that are useful for you. And just because something worked for me and it does not work for you does not mean that you are not capable or anything of that sort. Everybody has their own way of working. So I think let's get started. A little about myself. So as I told you, I secured an All India rank of 58 in NEET, and also I gave my CBSE board exams in the year 2020, where I secured a 97.2 percentage. I am also a Trinity Grade 5 pianist. So let's move on to the lecture. Uh, so starting out on my journey, when I decided to do science in class 11 and 12, I was not entirely sure that I wanted to do medicine, whether I wanted to do it in India or I wanted to go abroad. So, if y'all are that batch of students who are going to go to class 11 in the following academic year, I want to tell you that it is okay if you're not sure. You don't have to be 100% sure of what you're going to do because a lot of us at that point did not know. We just thought that this is probably what we want to do. And so I decided to take BPC, and then I started going for coaching because I thought I wanted to do medicine, and if you want to do it in India, you have to write NEET. So I started going for coaching, but class 11 was not a cakewalk at all. Like I had absolutely no idea because I am the first person in my family who is treading on this path. So I had no idea how much work the entrance exam required. So I was pretty clueless, and it was very difficult in class 11 because I was going to school and doing coaching. So how do you balance both of them? Because most times your school will teach you a different syllabus, and what you're studying for your entrance will be a different syllabus. At the end of the day, of course, you end up covering the same topics, but at a given point in time, most times you're doing different things. So, how do you balance your time? How do you balance your studies? So, it takes time for you to get used to that and understand that balance. So, if you are in class 11 now and you are facing similar issues, know that it is okay, and every single one of us has gone through that phase. So, of course, there was a point where I was so tired and so lost that I didn't think I could do medicine. So, I started reconsidering my options. So, now I had already taken biology, physics, and chemistry. So, I had already limited my options a lot. I could not do something that required math. So, what do you do then? I told myself that till I don't find something else to do, I'm not going to stop trying. So I continued and I kept trying, and eventually I found the balance. So again, if you are that set of person at this point who thinks that you're trying, but you just can't do it, know that it's never I can't do it. You will figure it out. You just have to be more patient. Take help from people. A lot of my teachers really helped me. Look at your friends. If somebody or the other around you will know what they're doing. So look at people around you, talk to seniors, talk to anybody who can help you, but don't just give up on what you want to do because you find it hard. This also is a very common myth that NEET is a very hard exam. That is not true. NEET by far is a simple exam. If you see the question papers, it does not require any extraordinary preparation. It is a very simple exam. The part that makes it difficult is how competitive it is. Because, for example, if you see in our batch, a lot of students perform phenomenally. Like I know, I think the top 115 or so received marks greater than 700. So it was an easy exam that way. If you look at it, what makes it difficult is that everybody around you is very competitive and very focused. So what I want to tell you is that even if you're struggling in class 11, you it will streamline by the time you reach class 12, because this has happened with every single person around me today in a medical college. I Everybody I talk to has the same journey, more or less. Everybody says that in class 11 we were not so sure of what we were doing, but by the time we reached class 12 we understood, we found the balance, we understood what is to be done, what is to be learned, how should you approach, as your questions have already started coming, how to overcome physics. You will figure that out, and I will come to that a little later in my slides. So now, how do you balance boards and needs? So what I want to tell you is that, remember, at the end of the day, by the end of class 12, when you finish your NEET syllabus and you finish your board exam syllabus, you have basically done the same topic. So even though when you are during the year in school, you probably have a test in inorganic chemistry, and at the same time, when you're preparing for your entrance, you're studying organic chemistry. So how do you balance both of them? I would honestly suggest stick to one timetable. So if you are, and I stuck to the entrance exam timetable, because by far for NEET, when you study for NEET, you cover a little beyond NCRT or your board exam syllabus. So then once you're done with your entire NEET syllabus, your board exam syllabus is taken care of. If you try and juggle both of them, I don't think it is possible to do both together, because I was not able to balance both of them that way together. So when I was in class 12, I used to only focus on my entrance exam timetable, and I would do whatever topics were planned according to that. And then obviously I was covering the board exam stuff alongside. So when the time came for my semester exams, I had finished that amount of portion. So subject-wise strategies, let's start with biology. So, biology, basically, most of it will come purely from your NCRT textbooks. NCRT is the Bible for biology. You have to literally scan through the book. You read every single word, and some things that we always miss out is when you have a diagram in NCRT, they always give you a description below the diagram. It will say figure, whatever, and then it will explain what is mentioned in the diagram. Now, sometimes what happens is whatever text is written over there is not included in the theory portion. So, when you overlook that, you end up missing a few very important points. For example, in class 12, you have this chapter on biotechnology and its principles or something, and you have a diagram of a plasmid, and right below that, you have something about the Ori sequence. Now, the Ori sequence is not mentioned anywhere else. Like, that particular fact about the sequence is not mentioned in the text. So please make it a point that when you are studying NCRT, you don't just read the lines, you understand every single one of them, and you read what is written in the diagram, below the diagram. All of that is very, very, very important. And if you go through the question papers of NEET for the last 2, 3 years, you will notice that all the questions are literally, they will give you a statement in NCRT, probably remove one word from it, and say, how do you, like, ask you to fill in the blank. So if you finish NCRT properly and thoroughly, I can assure you that you will get at least 330 marks out of 360. Biology is more or less entirely from NCRT, and whilst you are preparing, it is important to solve mock tests in previous year papers. So whatever little extra information is required, I think gets covered whilst you're doing that. If you don't know a question, just read up on it from whatever your coaching material, or if you have other reference books, you can always refer to them. But towards the end, do not focus on extra information. Please focus entirely on NCRT. Moving on to chemistry, there are three parts: physical, inorganic, and organic. All three of them have different approaches on how you will study them. So I honestly treated physical chemistry like physics. So you understand the theory. There is not a lot of theory in physical chemistry, but also it is important to read NCRT for physical chemistry, because some MCQs do come from physical chemistry also, which we very often ignore, thinking that only numericals can be asked from this topic. So, in physical chemistry, I would like you to read NCRT, understand the concepts, and practice questions. The more number of questions you practice, the stronger your concepts get. And what we have to remember about NEET is that besides concepts, you need to have speed. So only and speed comes only and only with practice. Now, of course, when we are talking about speed, you also need to be accurate. You can't just solve questions fast for the sake of it. You have to be fast and accurate. So that only comes with practice. Practice the questions in NCRT, and you get lots of question banks, previous year questions, mock tests, whatever. Just whatever question you get, solve them. Now in physical chemistry, what a lot of people do is they refer to materials from the JEE mains books because they think, let's do a little higher level so that NEET will be comfortable for us. There are two ways of looking at this. One, yes, it does make your concept stronger. Two, it is not for everyone. So when you do JEE mains questions, you start thinking in a different way. Like that is a higher level of application. So you start thinking in a different way. So sometimes when you look at a NEET question, that is a very simple, straightforward question, you will not understand what is required to be done there. So to strengthen your concepts, it is a good idea, but don't think that if I have not practiced JEE mains questions, I will not be able to do NEET. Because if you see the question paper, the questions are very simple. Like we will be basic formula based questions. So get your concepts right, do your theory from NCRT, and practice questions that are actually desired from your level. The syllabus is very vast, so don't try and do extra things from here, there, everywhere. And in that way, you will end up neglecting what is actually important. Now, moving on to inorganic chemistry. Inorganic chemistry again is very similar to biology. NCRT is your Bible. They will pick up any sentence from anywhere across those chapters as S block, P block, D and F blocks, and give it to you as a fill in the blank or as a table or as a match the following or whatever. So inorganic, you have to refer to NCRT, and according to me, NCRT is sufficient. Go through all the structures and all the tables, like for example, in the S block elements, there will be a table containing properties of all the elements. It is important to learn the trends, like which element is greater than what in suppose ionization potential or electron affinity. It is very important to learn the trends of these common groups, and also make sure give special emphasis on the anomalous trends. Like for example, in some place, I think in the softness or the density of the S block elements, there is an anomaly, sodium, potassium, or something like that. But make sure you keep into account all of this. So inorganic chemistry for me was very volatile. Like I would study it and I would forget it the next day. So I made notes of these things, like the trends, the important structures, and the formulas, that also the compounds, that like the structures that I mentioned, those compounds are very important because they have some special features in the text saying like this is a crystalline substance, that is an amorphous substance. These things are important because all of this can come as pick the odd one out. Like, these four options are given and which one is not crystalline, which one is amorphous. Things like that do come in NEET. So in organic, you have to know every single thing that is written in your NCRT textbook. Moving on to organic chemistry. Organic chemistry also, actually NCRT is sufficient, but however it is good to practice certain questions beyond NCRT. In which topics, let me tell you. In the basics, like in the class 11, the hydrocarbons chapter and the general principles of organic chemistry, you have these concepts on carbocations, carbanions, and all of that. So in that part especially, it is very important to practice questions beyond NCRT, because those kind of trends, and pick the most acidic or arrange them in order of highest strength of the carbocation, those kinds of questions come in NEET. Now, one way to understand what to study is to go through the previous year papers. and also, you get books that chapter wise divide the previous year questions. So it's good to go through those questions while you are studying also, so you have a fair idea of what you need to study, how you need to study it, how this is usually asked, so from what aspect should you know how it works. So things like that. It's very important to go through your previous year questions. So organic chemistry, then moving on to the organic chemistry of class 12. So majorly class 12 has trends and reactions. Reactions, the name reactions are very, very important. The reagents, the catalyst, everything about the name reactions is very important. Mechanisms, however, do the mechanisms that are in NCRT first, like those are very important. Beyond that, for the name reactions, I had gone through the mechanisms, but towards the end, in the last 2 3 months, I did not study a lot of extra things. I just focused on what was written in NCRT. So it's okay if you neglect the mechanisms of the name reactions that are not given in NCRT. But what is given in NCRT, you should know. Because, of course, even though I told you that it is a very simple paper, they always have one or two questions in every single subject that has to set apart those students that have prepared solely from NCRT and those that have gone a little step ahead. So it is good to do a little extra, but remember, when you are doing those extra topics, you do not neglect what is important. You do not neglect NCRT. Then moving on to physics. Physics, again, as I told you, has a similar approach to physical chemistry. So for physics, you have to get your concepts right. For this, I honestly got my concepts right in coaching. But whatever you are referring to as your source, whether you're learning it in school or you're going for some coaching or you're learning it through some online platform, whatever it is, get your concepts right. Understand, do not mug. Understand the formulae. Even if you end up memorizing the formula in the end, it should not be because you sat with one piece of paper and memorized 100 formulae in a day. It should be because you have solved so many questions that in which you have used that formula that you remember the formula by heart now. So physics is majorly practice and understand physics. Stop fearing physics, because I feared physics for all of class 11 and I performed pathetically in physics for all of class 11. In class 12, I decided consciously that I'm going to remove this block from my head, that it is not possible that physics is something that people can't do, because everybody around me, somebody or the other, would understand some concept. I'm not telling you that everybody would understand everything, but some concepts even I would understand for that matter. So it's not that physics is not doable. People just get scared. So what is very important for physics are the first 2 3 chapters in your class 11th grade portion, which everybody neglects. Now you think, motion in a straight line, that's a stupid chapter, it's not important. Motion in a plane, that is also very easy. But that is your foundation. If you know how to use vectors, trust me, 95% of your physics problems will go away just like that. It is very important to get your basics right in physics, so vectors and graphs, because also graphs, they ask you to deduce some relation, and then how do you know whether it's a hyperbolic curve or it's a parabolic curve? How do you know that? So in the beginning of class 11, they do teach you all of this, but we neglected, thinking that, okay, this is not important. I dropped math for a reason. I don't want to do trigonometry. But till you don't understand that, you are never going to be able to do physics. So physics is all about calculations, all about practice. But when I say this, I want to reinforce that do not neglect the theory part in physics. It is important to read NCRT for physics at least 2 times. Like read it once when you're studying the chapter and read it once when you're revising towards the end for NEET, because some graphs and some statements come as it is from the NCRT textbook, especially the paper that we had in the 2020 batch. We had quite a few theory based questions that had come exactly from NCRT. Like I remember reading those statements and they had come in the papers. Graphs also likewise. So these things do not come beyond NCRT. So it is NCRT for all three subjects is very, very important. Even though we end up neglecting it for physical chemistry and physics, I will honestly suggest please read it because the theory of these topics is very, very important. Now, I'm just going to look at the questions for a bit. Uh, I did answer how to overcome physics. However, if you have any further questions, please add them in the chat box. How to deal with multi-concept questions. So, since you are asking me this question, I assume that you are very comfortable with single concept questions. So, for multi-concept questions, honestly, once you know the concept, if you are able to solve questions with one single concept, you will be able to solve the multi-concept questions provided you have sufficient practice. You only have to understand that which two or three concepts to get go together in this question, and that comes with practice. I have solved multiple papers and questions, and only after that I used to understand that, oh, if they are using this particular word in the question, then that means this concept is also involved. And if I'm looking at this question, I have to keep in mind, like especially in electricity and magnetism, a lot of questions overlap each other, and you're trying to do something from magnetism, and you don't realize that there is an aspect of electricity that would probably counteract what you're doing. So you have to keep that in mind. So if you have your basic concepts right, I think you can tackle the multi-concept questions with practice. Practice is all you need. And physics books referred, I honestly used only my coaching material majorly. I did use their NEET stuff. I used their JEE books. Again, for physics, also the concept is the same. You can use JEE questions to improve your concepts, but don't get demotivated by them because it used to take me also a lot of time to solve those questions because we don't learn some parts of physics that are required to solve those questions. So don't get demotivated by them. Use them solely as, something to brainstorm and to gain confidence and things like that. And even if you do not do them, it is okay. Just stick to what is required for NCRT for your NEET syllabus. And other books that I refer to, one of them is I refer to H.C. Verma, but because that has a very wide variety of questions, it is a very good for a book for mechanics, like the first part of class 11 all the way up to system of particles and gravitation. H.C. Verma is a good book, and otherwise refer to question banks that have previous year questions because whilst I was solving these previous year questions, I realized that the trend of the questions that come every year is the same. Like almost the same concepts are tested, and even when I was writing my paper, I realized that I have solved. There was no question in the NEET 2020 paper which I have not solved before. Of course, like the numbers and everything would be different, but there was no concept that had gone unnoticed because and every single one of them was covered in the previous year papers. So that is one thing you can refer to. Civics basically do solve questions. So any book that gives you questions of your level, again, do not go start doing JEE advanced questions because it is a waste of your time. You anyways have a very vast syllabus, and as I received one query saying my schedule is very hectic, so since you anyways have very limited time, I think it's better to focus on what is important for you. So then there is a question saying my schedule is very hectic. How can I read NCRT for all subjects and reference books, and how can I practice questions? So honestly, NEET is all about optimizing the time that you have. Even I had a very hectic schedule. I used to come back from school around 3:30, and I used to leave for coaching at 4:30 and come back at 9 in the night. And I used to leave in the morning at 6:45. So that's it. Your day is over. So when do you actually study? I started using all the small gaps that I had. I used to study on my bus. Not advisable, not good for your eyes, I understand. But I used to solve a lot of physics in my bus because physics was time consuming. So I realized that my bus journey was like 40 minutes on the way and an hour in the evening. So use your travel time even when you're in school. This does happen. So I used to, whenever I had breaks, when I had a PE class, my school didn't have a lot of PE opportunities, so it was okay for me to just skip it. or if your teacher is absent, or there will always be gaps in your class, like the teacher's done teaching whatever they have to for the day, so now you're sitting idle. Instead of sitting and yapping with your friends, then just do something productive, solve 5 6 questions. You don't realize, but every single time you solve a few questions, by the end of the day you have covered a lot. uh, should we go beyond NCRT in biology? Whilst you are preparing, like the first time you're studying something, maybe during the 2 years you can, but towards the end, in the last 3 4 months, please stick entirely to NCRT. And if you have to go beyond NCRT, it should only be, as I mentioned earlier, if it has come in a previous year question. Otherwise, just let it be. Just do not go beyond NCRT. Is it important to do the back exercise questions of NCRT for physics? So I can't tell you it is important because that is exactly what will come in the NEET exam. But it is important because any kind of practice for physics is important. So if you have 20 questions there, please study. Please do that. School time is 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. See, honestly, everybody has similar timings. I used to leave earlier in the morning. So if your school starts at 9 a.m., if you can wake up in the morning, then wake up a little earlier in the morning and study. And otherwise, I think you have the rest of the day. So you have to find time. Then you have the weekends when you don't have school, or if you have a day off from your coaching, whatever. Use whatever little time you have. And as I told you, follow one timetable, because if you end up studying for school and for your entrance separately, then you will be studying the same thing 2 times. So you already have limited time and you're trying to do twice as much in that time. So stick to one timetable. How much should we study daily for NEET? So this is one question that I was going to come to. I have received a lot of questions like this. How many hours did you sleep? How many hours did you study? Honestly, this is very subjective. It depends on how fast you study, on how focused you are when you're studying, on how tired you are at the end of the day, whether you are able to take in any information or you're not able to take in any information. So I would honestly say keep a target of topics and do. So I used to make at the beginning of the week, probably on a Sunday, I used to decide that in the coming week, these are few topics that I will finish by the end of the week. Then you split them up into days that, okay, now this seems reasonable. On Monday, I'll finish so much. On Tuesday, I'll finish so much. And leave one day in the end, like probably the following Sunday, to finish all the backlog that you have throughout the week. So, but make sure you try, and it's not possible for you to go exactly according to your schedule and finish everything that you planned, because a lot of things do come up. And if you are so rigid that no, if I have planned 4 chapters, I have to finish 4 chapters, then you will end up getting disappointed and demotivated. So give yourself that buffer time. If you think you have worked sufficiently hard and still you are not able to finish what you have planned, just give it an extra day. It's okay to do that, but don't take advantage of that leniency that you're giving yourself and be like, okay, it's okay, I won't study today, I don't feel like studying today. Make sure no day goes as a zero study day. If you're specifically taking a holiday, it's a different thing. But on a regular basis, when your school and your exams, everything is going on and it's just a regular day, make sure no day goes as a zero study day. Even if you study for half an hour, it's okay, because we don't realize, but in the end, when there is so much to do, every single minute that you have studied before that counts. So for physics, coaching material, HC Verma question bank and previous year questions is enough. That is more than enough. HC Verma also, as I told you, I did not practice it for every single topic. I did it only for the topics that I was weak in and I wanted more questions to practice. So now moving on to my next slide. Uh, Practice tests, are they important? I think I've emphasized on this sufficiently previously also, but speaking about this specifically, yes, they are very important. And now, when I'm talking about practice tests, I'm not talking about those 50, 100 tests that you are going to take 3 4 months before NEET. I'm talking about those tests that you will be taking every 2 weeks or every month. This is important because it really helps you analyze how efficient your study strategy has been. Is it working for you? And do not look around yourself and say, oh, this person is getting 650 marks, I'm only getting 500, or I'm only getting 400, because this is also very relative. It depends on the months that you've had before you gave that test, what topics are coming in the test. Maybe it is a weak topic for you, it is a strong topic for that one. Maybe this month was not as productive for you and it was more productive for that one. So don't look at people around you and get disappointed. If anything, get encouraged that this person is able to do it, I will be able to do it too. And by the end of these 2 years, when I had written, I don't even know, I lost count of the number of tests I had written. I changed how I defined the word fail. Now, fail, of course, for me always was relative. It never meant ki if I get less than 50%, I have failed. So for a particular set of topics, if I was strong, then I would think that maybe if I get a score less than this, then I have not done up to my potential. But do not think that every time you do not perform up to your potential, you have failed. The only time you will fail is the day you stop trying. Because I have performed terribly in a lot of tests over the course of the 2 years. But eventually, when I gave NEET on the 13th of September 2020, I did well. So, can you say that I failed? Obviously not. I didn't fail. So, every single time you don't do well in a test, don't think that you have failed. It was just an obstacle, it was just a speed breaker, it was a bump in the road. It's okay. Look at your mistakes, analyze what went wrong. Is it a weak topic? If it is a weak topic, get someone to help you or find a better source. Maybe the source that you were referring to was not as helpful to you, or maybe you didn't put in enough work. Whatever it is, analyze your mistakes, analyze what went wrong, and just move forward. You can't hold every single of this test very close to your heart and say that, oh, I did too well in this, so now I'm not going to be able to do well in NEET. So they are important to analyze your mistakes, but do not keep that against your preparation. Just learn from it and move on. So how do you revise the entire syllabus? It During the 2 years you have already finished studying the entire chunk of your syllabus, right? So now when we are talking about revision, this is probably post your board exams, or it depends on how you start revising. I had started revising before my board exams itself. I made a daily timetable that how much ever I study for my board exams is different. It's a different compartment altogether. But I will dedicate 2 hours a day to NEET every single day, no matter what I have the next day, even if I have a board exam the next day. So then I split those 2 hours into. I basically was very weak in the physics from class 11, so I majorly utilized these 2 hours to revise class 11 physics. So then I had split every single day into, like, I will solve so many questions from this particular topic, so many questions from that topic. So by the time my board exams got over in, I think, mid-March, I had finished revising my entire 11th grade physics syllabus. So I will honestly suggest that you start doing this. NEET now happens in September. When we were going to write it, it was supposed to happen in May. So I started doing this from February. So I started revising physics and physical chemistry. These are time consuming topics, but once you have your concepts right, it becomes very easy. So start doing this side by side and try and get done with them earlier, because these are not things that you will forget. So once you have finished them, once you're confident about them, you just need like a minimal maintenance dose to practice every single day so that you don't forget. But it is not something that you will completely forget. Biology, however, has to be done regularly all the time, otherwise you will forget. So make a note of these topics that are volatile for you. I had a very long list of topics that I used to keep forgetting. For example, in transport in plants, the bulk transport, it might be a very simple topic for most of y'all, but it used to just not stick in my head. I used to keep forgetting. Or, for example, in animal tissues towards the end, we had cockroach. I would just not be able to remember it. Inorganic chemistry was volatile for me. So don't make like big chunks, like I can't remember this entire chapter. In that chapter, there will always be things that you still remember. So if you make a note of the smaller topics that you keep forgetting, this will help you save a lot of time. Because when you're revising the entire syllabus, if you sit and read every single line and every single topic, you will end up spending a lot of time on reading what you already know. So in the last phase, it's advisable to revise what you don't know, but this also is not your very last revision. I will come to your very last revision a little later. Make a reasonable timetable. Do not have very high expectations from yourself. It's like I told you, I used to give myself only 2 hours a day to NEET preparation for all of February and March, because then I was preparing for my board exam. One thing that you can tell yourself is that when you're preparing for your board exams, you are not studying astrology or anything. You're still studying the same three subjects. So side by side, you are also studying for NEET. So don't get anxious that, oh my God, how can I give my preparation a break? Now my rank is going to go down. You have to realize that every single person who is writing this exam is going through the same thing. Everybody will write board exams. Everybody will have a halt in their preparation when they are focusing primarily on their board. So it is okay. And even if you can't give those 2 hours that I did, as I told you at the very beginning, find something that is suitable for you. I was weak in the 11th grade physics. Maybe you are weak in the 12th grade physics. Maybe you are good at physics and you're weak in chemistry. So do whatever you are weak in at this time when you're doing smaller chunks, because when you sit and when you're studying for NEET 16 hours a day, then you can't sit. If you sit and focus on what you're weak in, you will get exhausted in the first half of the day. Then what do you do for the rest of the day? So when you are doing smaller chunks of this portion, it is advisable to do topics that are harder for you. So mock test, it once you are done with your board exams, this starts in all coaching. But even if it does not start, if you're not going for any coaching, once you have finished studying your syllabus, I won't even say once you have finished revising your syllabus. Once you have finished studying your syllabus, start giving mock tests. Mock tests here refer to the full portion test, right? It's just like how you're going to be writing NEET. Give those tests even if you have not revised the entire syllabus. This is one thing you will never be able to do. Like even on the day I wrote NEET, if you asked me if I was 100% confident about everything that was in the syllabus, I would not be able to say no, and nobody around me would be able to say that yes, I am very confident. It is not possible. So start doing these mock tests, because it makes you aware of what you're forgetting. It makes you aware of the mistakes you're commonly making. There are some things that we think that no, this concept is really strong, like I know how to do this. But you will realize that there are some questions that you're still going wrong in that concept. So you know it basically helps you to prevent that process of overlooking things that you're weak in. So it's very important to do mock tests. But again, as I said, for practice tests, this applies for mock tests also. If your scores are not very high, it is okay. Do not get demotivated by them. I'm not going to say it's okay, you will still do well in NEET. That's not how it works. If it's not, if your scores are not high, then work on your strategies. See what is going wrong. Find your weak topics. Get help for it. The same procedure, but do not at any point get demotivated by it. I know it's very easy for me to say, because even I have gotten demotivated by tests. Like I would give a test and I used to get so frustrated that in spite of studying so much, if I still can't do well, then maybe this is just not for me. But it's not like that. Maybe it's just one test. Maybe the test had like a full culmination of questions that you are weak in. It could be anything. So if you didn't do well in a test, it could be literally anything. And you will be giving a very big number of tests to in the end. So maybe it's just that you're exhausted, you don't want to solve any more tests. Ideal number of mock tests. There is no such thing as an ideal number of mock tests. So I had finished my preparation, so I used to give tests every single day. And there came a point where I was so tired that I did not want to look at a paper. And every time I used to solve a paper, because I had solved so many, I used to do it very casually. Even if I make a mistake, big deal, I'll just see what the right answer is. I anyways know it, so it's okay if I make a mistake. So that kind of an attitude tends to seep in. So when that happens to you, reduce the frequency. If you think that you need to give more time to studying and lesser time to mock tests, reduce the frequency. You don't have to give a test every single day. And sometimes you feel like, you're very tired of studying and you don't know what to study. You've covered more or less everything and now you don't know what to revise, because that way, if you sit and see, you want to revise everything. But that is not possible. So then maybe you can give 2 or 3 mock tests in a day. So what happens when you give mock tests is you will get to know where you're making mistakes. One thing that is very important is every mistake that you make, do not let it go unnoticed. I want you to maintain a book that in which you write down every single question that went wrong, even if you don't refer to it ever again. Just that act of writing what went wrong will make you remember that, oh yes, I had, when you see a similar question the next time, you will remember that, oh yeah, this had gone wrong. And if you go wrong in a question, please study that topic and also, a few concepts peripheral to it that you might have been lacking in. Otherwise, you would be able to, there are lots of ways of solving a question in NEET. If you all have solved any practice test, you will know that sometimes even if you don't exactly know the concept, if you know the peripheral concepts, there is a very important elimination method that most of us used to use in questions that we were doubtful in to get the answer. You will know that no, this option can't be right, that option can't be right, so then it has to be this one. Even if you don't know what's right, you would know what was wrong. So it's important that when you go wrong in a question, also do look at all the peripheral topics. What kind of mock tests? Again, it is very important that you solve mock tests that are at the level of NEET. There are tests that will be much easier. It doesn't make sense to solve those tests because it is an unnecessary boost of your morale, and you will become overconfident and you think that, you lose your motivation to study that way. And do not serve very hard tests because that will also work similarly. You'll feel like you can't do anything and you lose your motivation to study. You won't want to study. So, your post-test evaluation is important. What kind of mock test you write is very important. And as I mentioned, there is no such thing as an ideal number of mock tests to solve. Now, your last round of revision. Before this, I think I'll look at the questions for a bit. How much time did you give yourself for self-study? I think I did answer this. So, there is no, I did not give myself a timetable as such that I will sleep by 11 o'clock, I will study from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. I didn't do that. So, give yourself topic-wise timetables. I think that is more important. Like, I want to finish these set of topics by the end of the week or by the end of the day, whatever works for you. What was your lowest marks in the coaching test? See, I don't want to. I can tell you this. I don't probably remember my lowest marks, but I have scored as low as the 400, and I have scored as high as my NEET score was 702. So I'm only telling you this so that you can get motivated. That even if you're not scoring well, it is absolutely okay. Like, do not at any point think that you can't do it. You just have to change the way you are working. There is no such thing as, there is nobody in this world who can't do it because NEET is a simple exam. If all the preparation that goes into it makes it look very glamorous and difficult, but when you actually sit to write the paper, it is a very simple exam. And as I mentioned, the only thing that makes it difficult is how competitive it is. Um, weak calculation also, the only thing you can do is practice, 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 and practice, because you can't go back to class one or two where they're teaching you addition, multiplication again. So the only thing you can do is practice. And honestly, people do not have weak calculations. It is only that they make mistakes with speed. So that will come with practice. Online coaching is good or offline. This is a very, very subjective question. Some people prefer to stay home, but in your own environment, you save a lot of time on transportation. Sometimes your coaching center is really far and it's inconvenient. So I think that depends on how you like to study. Some people like the classroom atmosphere, then of course for them, offline coaching is more suitable. How to clear backlogs? To clear backlogs, first focus on finishing what you're doing at the moment. There will always be one particular day where okay, you've done enough, like you know what you're currently doing. So then you have a free day. Don't get too stressed about backlogs because you will get time towards the end. I'm not now, don't take this in the negative way that I can keep as much backlog as I want. But towards the end, once your board exams are done and you're solely preparing for NEET, you will get time. But try and finish them as fast as possible. Use your weekends for that. Once your exams get over, do take a break. A lot of people just keep studying and keep studying, and you will end up burning out because even though our exam is supposed to happen in May and it ended up happening in September, those few extra months that we got in a way were good for a lot of people. For me also, I would say that to a certain extent it was helpful. It gave me more time. But besides giving you time to study, it you don't realize, but you have to work as hard for so many more months. So considering how everything around us is today, it's very the situation is very unpredictable. So give yourself breaks, take time to yourself. If you're really exhausted and you need a day off, take the day off. Don't get very anxious that, oh, if I don't study for one day, then these four people that are sitting around me are going to end up scoring much better than I am, because it's not like that. It's not a mad race like that. It's okay if you take a day off, because you have to realize that if you're exhausted, you're anyways not doing any productive work. So you might as well take that day off and have a productive week after that. Was class 11 physics hard for you also? Yes, it was hard for me. It was hard for me till the end of class 12, if that makes any sense to you. Because all through class 11, I did not understand physics. And then in class 12, when I started understanding physics, I started focusing on the class 12 physics. So I actually strengthened my class 11 physics towards the end of class 12 once I finished my class 12 physics syllabus. So class 11 physics is difficult for more or less everyone for a lot of reasons. One, it is very different from what you do in school, so you don't know how to approach it. And two, I think this block is there in everyone's head. Like everybody tells you physics is difficult, physics is not doable or whatever. And also, what happened personally with me was when I was taught these basic concepts that I mentioned earlier of, trigonometry and vectors and graphs. I was not taught why I was being taught these concepts. Like nobody told me that it's important for you to know this, because every single question that you solve in the chapters that are to come will require you to do this. I felt like it was just a very useless concept. Like what do I have to do with, law of addition or vectors? How does it matter to me? So it's important that when you're doing your class 11 physics, you do these basic concepts and you realize that if you don't know this, you will not be able to do your class 11 physics, you will not be able to do your class 12 physics. Because even your class 12 physics, the initial few chapters of electricity, magnetism, and alternating current, basically up to your ray optics, all the way up to your ray optics, are solely based on vectors. So, is there any important need of NEET coaching? This again is very subjective. There are some people that do phenomenally without coaching. There are some people who think it is very important because you need the guidance. So if you are not taking any coaching and you're still doing well, do not get pressurized, into taking coaching just because everyone around you is taking coaching. If you feel like you're doing well enough, you know your stuff, then it's okay. If you can't afford coaching, there are lots of online sources that are really good, because towards the end, when the pandemic hit us and we were sitting at home, we also we did not have access to our coaching. So a lot of times we used to refer to just online sources. There are a lot of channels on YouTube that are helpful. You can just refer to anything online. So there is no hard and fast rule that if you take coaching, you are going to do well, or if you don't take coaching, only then you can do well. What you used to do when you didn't feel like studying? When I didn't feel like studying, I used to take a break. Always stick. Everybody has a hobby, so I do understand that this happened with me also. I did neglect my hobbies a lot because I used to focus on studying, but do not completely let it go. So at times when you're really stressed and you're really exhausted, it's it's a good thing to take some time off and do something that you love, refresh yourself, spend some time with your family, maybe go out with your friends for some time, do whatever makes you happy and makes you calm. Because this is not something that you will experience only during NEET. Even as a medical student today, there are times when I don't feel like studying at all. And earlier, I used to force myself that no, you have to study, otherwise, you won't pass your exam or things like that. But you have to realize that nothing is the end of the world. So if you don't feel like studying, take a break. But again, when I say take a break, I don't mean do not ever get back to your books. Take a break, and after you feel okay, tell yourself that okay, I took some time for myself now. Now I have enjoyed. It's time for me to get back to my books. So that discipline you have to inculcate in yourself I can't do it for you, your parents can't do it for you, your teachers can't do it for you. You have to know for yourself that if you have spent time doing something else because you needed it, now you have to spend time studying because you need to study. How to tackle distractions during preparation. I think I have these few questions a little later. I'm going to answer your question very soon. So the day of the exam is very important. So when you go to write the NEET exam, out of 16 lakh kids that write it, maybe at least some 5,000 students will be as well prepared as you are, or maybe even more than that. This, of course, varies on how prepared you are, but a lot of people are equally prepared. And for the same paper that you are writing, also they are equally prepared. You can say that stronger in some concepts, but for those 180 questions, there will be a lot of people that are equally prepared. Then how does everybody get a different rank? How does everybody get a different score? What is important for you to remember is that before your exam, sleep well, eat well. Do not, on the day of your exam, I would honestly suggest don't revise anything because it is normal to be anxious. You're going to be anxious, so you will skip through words, you will read something that is not written, you will read probably the exactly the opposite of what is written. And then, if by chance that particular topic comes in your paper, then you're so confused because your memory from before, from when you were not anxious and when you read it, peacefully, tells you something else. And what you read in the morning tells you something else. So you don't know what to do. And then these situations of confusion make you even more anxious when you're writing the exam. So to avoid all of this, avoid revising anything, that is exactly why I have written avoid academic discussions with your peers also at the same time. And one thing that you have to remember is that, as I told you earlier, you will never feel like I know every single thing that is in the syllabus. It is impossible to have that level of confidence. But when you go to write your paper, just remember that throughout these 2 years, you have worked very, very, very hard. You have given it everything that you had. And when you're thinking about this, don't say that, oh, on a particular day I took 2 hours off to go and play some sport, so now this is going to impact my rank. It is not like that. It doesn't work like that. Overall, you worked as hard as you could, and you gave it as many hours as you could. So know that and go with that in your mind, that whatever I write today has to live up to how much I have studied. It does not have to live up to what the topper is going to score. It does not have to live up to what my teacher is expecting from me. It does not have to live up to what my parents are expecting from me. It only has to live up to as much effort as I have given in these 2 years. How do you attempt your paper? So, to attempt your paper, I will tell you my strategy and explain why I use that particular strategy, but this is also subjective. This you have to develop whilst you are practicing the mock test, whatever works for you. So what I used to do was, first I used to solve biology. I was pretty fast with biology, so I used to finish it in 15 to 20 minutes. A lot of people I have noticed sit for 30, 45 minutes solving biology. 30 minutes is okay. 45 minutes, you're eating into the time that you could give to chemistry and physics. So I would suggest that you make yourself a little faster. You should not give more than 30 minutes to solving biology, especially in your first round of solving it. Then moving on to chemistry, I used to solve biology, then I used to solve chemistry. So by the time I used to be done with both the subjects, I would still have a minimum of 1.5 hours, or on most occasions 2 hours left to solve physics. So then, also when I used to solve biology and chemistry, I should mention that there always are questions that you are not sure about. Read them once, read them twice. If you still can't figure it out, move to the next question. Because you have to realize that when you are giving more time to these questions, you are taking out time from questions that you know. Maybe by the end, then you won't have time left for questions that you could have solved provided you would have had the time. And since you're unsure, the chances are that whatever you mark, or if you end up leaving it, you're still going to lose marks for this question. So then you lose marks for this question also, and for questions that you would otherwise be able to solve also. So when you encounter these questions, look at them twice, thrice. If you're still not able to do it, just circle it or whatever, use whatever mark you have to remind yourself that this question is pending. Move on. For biology, do that. For chemistry, do that. Now, for physics, there are two ways that I find very efficient. However, I did not need one of them because our paper was pretty simple. So I just went all 45 questions in a row, whatever I could solve as fast as I could. Again, whatever was confusing or I thought, maybe I could have made a mistake in the calculation, circle them so that if you have the time later, you can just go through them and check the calculation or whatever. The second strategy that you can use if you have a lot of tough questions in your paper, this usually does not happen in NEET, but if you think that, that there is a considerable number of questions that require a lot of thought in them, go through all the questions. Whilst you're going through the questions, whatever is a one line, one step calculation, or some questions will be directly theory based. So whatever you can solve in like 15-20 seconds, solve all of them first for physics. In this way, you will end up covering minimum of 20 questions. So if you finish 20 questions, you're already scoring 80 marks in physics. And then whatever time is left, you go through those other questions that thought would take more time and solve as many of them as you could. Now, one more thing that is very important for competitive exams like this is your OMR bubbling. When should you bubble your OMR? And now, I don't know, I think coaching is still not resumed offline and people are still writing online tests. So most of y'all do not have any practice in bubbling OMRs altogether. So I would suggest that get prints of them and practice them at least when you're solving the mock test in the last 1 or 2 months, because it is time consuming to bubble an OMR also. It takes you a minimum of 20 minutes if you're doing all the questions once together in the end. It takes you 20 minutes. So now I knew I was confident of my speed. So I did this that I solved all my questions and towards the end I bubbled them. But I have seen a lot of people do this. I have done it myself also initially when I was much slower. I used to solve 5 questions and then bubble every 5 questions. Uh, One thing that you have to keep in mind when you're bubbling the entire thing together is that there will be questions that you have left. So make sure that you are leaving that blank, because if you go wrong in one question in the order, every single question after that will go wrong and there is no extra OMR. Whatever you have is all you have. You can't undo it, you can't use a whitener, you can't use a pencil, you can't do anything. If you have bubbled it wrong, it's gone. So it's important to practice OMR bubbling. And if the situation still persists as it is today, then you will be wearing masks, you will probably be wearing a face shield or a glove or whatever. So in your last 1 month, when you're writing mock tests, please practice in similar conditions. Practice writing the exam with a mask. It might sound like a joke to you, but it is not easy. Like, you do become uncomfortable because you're so anxious. You worked so hard for 2 years, and everything, those 3 hours for you are going to define everything that you have done, everything that your future is going to be. It is not like that, but it does feel like that. So, considering everything, even that small mask becomes very irritating to handle. So please, please practice bubbling. Please practice wearing a mask while you're writing your exam, provided the situation is still as it is today. Let me see the questions. How to tackle distractions? So the thing with distractions is, honestly, I was so busy studying that I did not have the time to get distracted. So you have to discipline yourself. Now, if you're talking about social media, I was on social media for the greatest part of my preparation. I was off social media only for the last 6 months. So it's not that if you are on social media, you can't prepare. You just have to make sure that if you're giving yourself, 5-10 minutes off between your two study sessions to refresh yourself and go through your Instagram feed or whatever you use, then you have to make sure that when you say 10 minutes, you mean 10 minutes. Don't say 10 minutes and sit at that for 1 hour and then end up regretting it later. You have to discipline yourself, and if you are not disciplined, then that is when NEET becomes hard. So I think the biggest thing that you have to do is self discipline, because your parents can't be hammering you every 1 hour saying, no, put your phone down, sit and study. Your teachers can't be telling you every week that, no, you're not doing well, you have to do this, you have to do that. You have to do it yourself. Nobody can do it for you. Um, what should we have to study a day before the exam? Honestly, I would suggest nothing, but I did not follow my own advice. So let me tell you what I studied one day before the exam. As I told you earlier, make a list of whatever your volatile topics are. Maybe you can go through those topics, but do not, especially in the last 1 month, do not try and learn anything new because it's not it's not going to be useful at all. In that last 1 month, you're already revising so much and you're solving so many questions that even if you learn something new, you're not going to be able to make that concept as strong as you require it to be. So then it really doesn't make sense. I'd rather you and also your weak topics, focus on them for till the last month. But in the last month, if you're still not able to do it, just let it be, because the max that can come from that topic will be one question. So I'd rather leave that one question than leave 30 40 questions, other questions that I can do if I focus on revising them. So in the last 1 month, really use that time to strengthen your concepts, what you already know. Uh, Work on your strong points in the last 1 month. This has a lot of other advantages, like it will make you more confident. And on the day of the exam, the your mental condition will determine 50% of your results. I went in confident. I knew that I had worked hard. So then I did well. I know people who had worked just as hard as me, but they went in very anxious, thinking that no, maybe this one will do better, maybe that one will do better. And then they didn't end up doing well. So your mental condition is very, very important on the day of the exam. So if you have not slept the previous night, if you have studied entirely new concepts the previous day, your mental condition is clearly not going to be very suitable to write that exam. So you have to calm yourself down, and this is not something that will come in a day. For all of the last month, you have to work on making yourself healthy physically, mentally, in every way. Because how things are today, we were sitting there at our center for 3 hours before the exam, then you're sitting there for 3 hours during the exam. So it is a very tiring process because it is mentally exhausting also. So you have to get used to that entire process, and that's exactly why I'm telling you, do not learn anything new before the exam or in the last 1 month. How to reduce negative marking, because I lost most of my marks because of negative marking. So negative marking, one way that you can reduce it is first solve all the questions that you are very, very confident of. If you think that, there is a very slight ambiguity also that, maybe I can't do this question, I don't know how to do it, or there is something of that sort, leave the question for, I will come and review this question once I'm done with all my questions. That is one way you can reduce your negative marking. The other thing you can do is that when you go back to these questions, very judicially, bubble them. I left two questions, and instead of marking them wrong, that's why I scored a 702. So don't ever feel very egoistic that no, how can I leave a question? Like, I am the topper of the class, how can I leave a question? It doesn't work like that, because those 2 marks meant a lot to me. If by chance I would have bubbled those two questions wrong, I would not be in Mamsi today. Like, I would have missed the cutoff. So it's very important that when you are bubbling questions that you are not very confident in, make sure that there is a 70 or 80% chance that what you're bubbling is right. If you just don't know, I would suggest you leave it, because when you get a question wrong, if you lose marks in negative marking, you're losing marks for questions that you know also, because those negative will take away everything that you have solved right. So it doesn't make sense. If you don't know something, leave it. It's better to get it wrong, to leave it than to get it wrong. So common myths that people have about toppers and in general about NEET. Your preparation must start as early as class 7 or 8. No, there is no such thing as you should start studying for NEET in class 8. I started studying for NEET very, very honestly in class 12. I will not suggest this. Please start studying from class 11 because it becomes very stressful. Not everyone is going to have a 6-month lockdown before their exam. So start studying from class 11, but that is sufficient. It is anyways very exhausting, the syllabus is vast. So by the end of those 2 years, you're already so desperate for the exam to happen and for you to just, get rid of it. So if you start studying in eighth, some people are able to sustain, some people are able to go on for so many years and still perform well. But I have not seen this as a trend in general. A lot of people that I know started studying for NEET in class 11 and have still performed very, very well. Studying big fancy books will help you score better. If you noticed, I have not mentioned a single fancy book in my talk today because I have not referred to a single fancy book during those 2 years of my preparation. It just complicates your life. It makes it you're basically wasting your time, to be very honest. I know knowledge gained is not time waste, but when you're preparing for NEET, you already have limited time. A lot of y'all are anyways complaining that y'all have very hectic schedules. So focus on what is important. If you have doubts, queries, you're not able to understand the concept, then you can refer to a more comprehensive book, but otherwise stick to NCRT, stick to your coaching material, and that will be just enough. It is essential to read multiple books. No, it is in fact very, very difficult to manage information when you're reading from multiple books. This you will experience once you go to college because different authors will have different things to say about the same thing. So I would not suggest that you experience it during NEET. NEET, like the NTA question paper and answer sheet, will blindly follow what is written in NCRT, even if the most renowned scientist in the world is saying otherwise. What is written in NCRT is what is right. So when you're reading multiple books, you're just unnecessarily confusing yourself. Toppers study 16 to 18 hours a day. Again, not true. All of us have as hectic lives as you all had, as we had as hectic lives as you all have today. We also went to school, we went to coaching, we barely had any time in the day. And probably my time of self study on a weekday when I had school and coaching together was not more than 2 hours. I think 2 hours was the max that I used to give myself on any day, but then use the weekends to cover up for that. Even on the weekends, studying 16 to 18 hours a day, people do it. I'm not saying nobody does it, but most people don't do it. And it is not required also. Just don't have a particular mindset that I have to study so many hours only, then I will do well in NEET. NEET is nothing about the hours that you give it. It's just about how much you know. And how much you know has nothing to do with how many hours you gave it. It is it depends on how you have studied. If you sit and rote learn, it has worked for people. I know people around me in my college itself that have rote learned and done very well in NEET. It did not work for me. So find what works for you. Both strategies work, but I would honestly suggest you do not rote learn because it becomes difficult in the long run. When you enter a college, there is a very, very vast syllabus. You can't sit and rote learn everything. So try and understand what you're doing. It helps you retain things for longer. I have emphasized on this last point multiple times. NEET is not difficult. It is only competitive. The question paper will be easy, so please go for the exam confidently, provided you have covered all the basic concepts that are mentioned in NCRT. You will be just fine. So frequently asked questions, you all ask me, hours of sleep, study that has been covered, social media and distractions I told you about, number of revisions. Now, if you ask me how many times I revise the syllabus, I will probably give you a very, very fractional number because there is no such thing as I started from the first chapter of class 11 and went all the way to the last chapter of class 12 in a day or in 3 days or in 4 days. It doesn't work like that. So initially you start by revising everything, then you realize that I know this is weak. So you probably revise one topic 10 times and you revise the other topic 2 times. Revise till you are confident. Don't revise till you have achieved like a target number that okay, if I revise this 5 times, that means I know it bang on. Maybe you still don't know it bang on. Maybe you revise something twice and you still know it well enough. So why are you wasting your time revising it again when you can revise something that you don't know? So don't have these preset notions. Don't listen to people. Don't get carried away that, oh, that person is doing organic chemistry today. I should also do organic chemistry today. It does not work like that. Do what you are weak in. Do what you need to do. Optimum score in mock tests. I did cover this when I spoke of mock tests. There is no optimum score. There is no such thing as I did not perform well in my mock test, so I will not do well in NEET. It does not work like that. You have to realize that there are going to be two different papers on 2 different days. You will have a different mental capacity. You will be probably much better prepared by the time you're giving NEET. And on the day that you give NEET, you will have the experience of those 50 to 100 mock tests that you have given in the last 1 or 2 months. You would have learned so much. So if you don't do well, it's okay. Just learn and move on. Life after NEET and life in a medical college. I would like to tell you that it's all fun and games, but it's not. Um, Once NEET is done till you get into medical college, please enjoy, because medical college is also as exhausting as NEET is, or maybe a little less, because here you're not competing against anyone. Here you're just happy to be in college and you're happy to do what you wanted to do. You have this feeling of satisfaction that, I've done something and I've reached here. All those factors, of course, are there. Life is a little less stressful here, excepting when it's exam season. But otherwise, medical college is fine. So don't think too much into the future. Like when I was preparing for NEET, I didn't even for a single day think that I want to go to AIMS Delhi. It's good to have goals, but AIMS Delhi for me was 50 seats out of so many. So how am I supposed to promise myself that I will be in the top 50 in the country? It's not possible, because besides how much you've prepared, what happens on the day of the exam also defines how you're going to perform. So don't put those expectations on yourself unnecessarily. Just as I told you, when you go to write the exam, remember that you have to live up to how much you have studied. It does not matter what anybody else is expecting from you. So I think I am more or less done. Let me just see if you all have any questions. What can you suggest for 2023 aspirants? So I suppose you have just started out. You're probably in class 11 now. Take your time, understand the balance, figure out what you need to do, what you should not do. It's going to be okay. I mean, initially in class 11, even I was very, very confused. I did not know what to do. I thought, I just can't do physics. I can't remember biology. There's so much to do. How am I supposed to do it? Everything seems very overwhelming. But take your time, take a deep breath, talk to people, attend lectures if you can by seniors who have already done NEET. You will realize that this happens with every single person. Like everybody has a different journey, but this thing remains constant. Nobody starts out like that and does phenomenally from the very first day. So if you are a 2023 aspirant, I will tell you that give yourself time, learn the balance, and keep working. You're going to do well. I'm using fingertips for MCQ practice. Can you continue that? Yes, you can. I have heard very good review of the book, and I've heard that the questions are very neat level. I did not solve it myself, but you can use MCQ, fingertips for MCQ. Backlogs are becoming very hectic. What can I do? So this is relative to what time in your preparation you are, whether so you're obviously not giving NEET until next year. So you have to realize that if you have developed a backlog over a period of time, it is going to take you a period of time to get rid of it. You can't think that on this one weekend I'm going to sit and finish all my backlog. It does not work like that. So take it in small chunks. Do not look at it as a big black cloud that you have on top of your head. Just take it in very small chunks. See whatever you can do. Okay, since you're saying you're in class 11, you have a lot of time to cover up your backlog. But try and reduce your backlog as to the new backlog that you will be generating. Okay, so whatever topics are going on currently in your school or coaching or whatever timetable you're following, try and stick to it so that you don't have more backlog, and then slowly try and cover the topics that are already there in your backlog. But that should be fine. I don't think that will be a problem. That's all I had to say. So one thing that you should remember is that everybody has a different journey. Everything that I told you today is about how it was for me. It might not be the same for you. It, in all probabilities, will not be the same for you. So don't think that, oh, if I did any differently than she did, I'm not going to do as well as she did. Maybe you might just do better, or you might do just as well. Everybody has their different ways of working. So that's all I would like to say before I sign off, I think. I hope I was informative and I you all fruitfully utilized your time by attending my session. Yep. Thank you so much.